Hi, good morning. We are from Group 4 and today we are going to present our witness analysis of the article Adolescent Identity and Social Roles in Online Fan Community, Evidence from Text Analysis and Grounded Theory among Chinese high school students. So the first weakness that we found is that this research only focuses on the platform Weibo, which have many unique features such as ranking systems, fan votings, and also fan levels. And these features might also affect the fan behavior. So it's difficult to determine whether the result or the findings of the study truly reflect fandom behaviors or just simply a product of Weibo platform. And the result might not fully apply onto other fandom communities that can be found in other social media platforms. And another weakness that we found is that this article only focuses on the positive side of fandom. It portrayed fandom as something that's positive, like identity exploration or emotional support. But the negative side of fandom, like obsession, parasocial relationships, or even overspending on fan activities, is not discussed at all. And another thing that is unclear from this study is that it portrayed adolescent fandom as something positive, identity exploration or emotional support. But when it comes to adult fandom, it is linked to more intense attachment or even addiction like tendencies. But the article does not state or explain how or when healthy adolescent fandom behavior might develop into adulthood toxic fandom behavior.
So the next is on methodological limitations. So this study used mixed method design combining linguistic inquiry and word count and grounded theory. However, there are several limitations, which is the first one is on tool constraints. So linguistic inquiry and word count is excellent for quantifying word frequency. However, it cannot show the deep meaning behind these words. So the result can only be treated as descriptive linguistic patterns rather than designated proof of the student's mental state. The second is that the sample cannot speak for adolescents in other countries because the participants is only Chinese high school students and the adult comparison group is not perfectly matched in terms of background, and there is also gender imbalance ongoing. The third limitation is on public persona effect because, as we know, this study only used public posts, so this can show the hidden feelings of what the fans actually felt. And the last limitation is on the methodological scope itself because there is no longitudinal data, so we cannot know how this fan investment change in long term. Next.
Okay, moving on to the third critics, I'll discuss about sampling and generalizability gap. Also, this study is used on large of digital dataset. We found three critical flaws that limits its ability to represent all Chinese adolescent fans. First, I will highlight the interview gaps. The researchers built complex psychological models only depend on 15 semi-structured interview. So even though the data is over 14,000, the actual human evidence only comes from 15 people, which is in a country with million fans. It is insufficient to capture the psychological diversity of an entire generation. And the second point is geographical and temporal bias. Geographically, the participants were recruited only in single school in Henan provinces, which is known as its extreme academic competition. So it cannot represent students in tier 1 cities like Shanghai or Beijing and rural provinces Thailand. And the data were collected during Chinese New Year's period, which is a peak period where students are on vacation. So their behavior during a festival cannot reflect their daily school life behavior. And finally, we highlight about social desirability and group surveillance. So public posts on Weibo are shaped by platform norms and peer monitoring. So it leads to idealized view of fandom because fans often suppress their negative or private emotions to maintain group loyalty. So next.
The next gap that we found is how this article's scope is too narrow that can cause bias. So, as Dian said before, that this article only analyzed Weibo or the social media Weibo in China for the result of fandom behavior in social media in general. I think it's not valid because in China there's some other social media, like for example Douyin for TikTok in China, and then there's Xianghoushu for Instagram in China, and then there's also Weibo, which is like the equivalent of Twitter in China and other social media. So this variety of social media can cause different behaviors in fandoms because each social media has their own algorithms, has their own content, has their own system, so they can cause public beliefs that is different in each social media. So in this findings of this article, it said that it covers all social media. It's not really valid. So instead of generalizing all social media in China, for this researcher, it is better to be more focused on the distinction of behavior in the across platforms. So instead of using one platform, which is Weibo, to generalize all fandom in social media in China, it would be more spot on if the researcher is analyzing the behaviors of fandoms across platforms in multiple social media and point out how the platform system can impact this distinction in fandom behaviors.
Well, we also find some weakness in the discussion that need to be improved. The first one is the discussion tends to be repetitive. Why? So much of the discussion sections simply restates the finding from the results instead of interpreting it critically. While in our opinion, a strong discussion should explain why these findings matter or important to the study. And the second one is lack of critical perspective on negative impact, as my friends explained in the previous slide before. So although the article highlights the exploitation or the negative impacts of the fandom itself, but it lacks of more critical negative impact like cyberbullying, addiction, or even emotional dependency, and etc. And the third one is no practical recommendation for stakeholders. So we think that this article tends to give like the survey's recommendation and very predictable recommendation. So the author just recommend us for the future, the better future study for the same topic about this article. While it doesn't provide a real or a concrete recommendation for some stakeholders like for education institutions like schools or for parents or for social media companies itself. So we think that that is a pretty crucial weakness for this article because the article highlights the danger of the fandom itself but fails to give how to address this risk in social world. Next, please. So we think that's all that we can share to you today about the weakness of this article, and we really thank you very much for your nice attention.